Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Now, the vast majority of Albertans are open and welcoming, but sadly, our province is not immune from racism. Today, we've learned about a disturbing incident caught on video. Now, this government says they want to tackle racism, but their words are not backed up by action. Community grants under the Human Rights, Education and Multiculturalism Fund have been cut by the NDP to levels lower than 2013. And at the same time, the Alberta Human Rights Commission reports the complaints are the highest they have seen in 15 years. To the Premier, words are meaningless without action. Why have you cut the very programs intended to target racism?
Deputy Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and to the member for the very important question. Racist and bigoted comments have no place here, and we know that Alberta is a positive and welcoming place, and so is the city of Lethbridge, that I think any of us who saw the video today are absolutely shocked by what we saw displayed there, Mr. Speaker. And that's why we're not only working with the items that the member has referred to, but also we have a minister dedicated to ensuring that the work around anti-racism moves forward in this province, because we absolutely are better when we are loving and accepting of one another.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'm glad the minister mentioned the work that the Minister of Education was tasked with nearly a year and a half ago. And at the time, you got some good headlines, but since then, we've heard absolutely nothing. Hundreds of Albertans participated in consultations in good faith in hopes that your government would take real action to address their concerns about increasing racism. Now, the mandate letter to the minister says his work was to be completed by last fall. Now, it's funny how priorities change when the story slips out of the headlines. So again to the Premier, will we see the report soon? Have you given up on it? Or do you have the report and you've simply decided not to release it?
The Minister of Education.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thanks to the member for that important question. And certainly, yes, we have been working on a paper and a strategy to fight racism, to foster inclusion and promote acceptance in the province of Alberta, and certainly we have been working hard on this issue for the last number of months. We will have a paper and the results of this very, very soon, and in the meantime, certainly we've been working in education to further this, since the best way to fight ignorance is through education.
Second supplemental.
Well, Mr. Speaker, Albertans from diverse backgrounds face racism far too often. The incident we're learning about today is a particularly graphic example, but it is far from the only one. In April this year, there was an anti-Muslim rally held in Calgary. This weekend, we saw disturbing anti-Indigenous sentiments loudly voiced at a political convention. And people of colour face subtle and overt racism in their everyday lives. Premier, addressing racism in our society absolutely must be a priority. And it's easy to write a letter to a minister, but it's much more difficult to take real action. I want to know exactly what this government plans to do to address racism and when we will see concrete results.
Deputy Premier.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and to the member again for the question. We are in final stages on consultation of the report that we promised, and we are working with the community, and it's proving to be very complex work. When we intervene to stop racism, it is at any opportunity we have the chance. I'm very proud of the fact that Alberta Health Services worked very quickly around disciplinary measures when healthcare workers last year used racist terms. They fired those workers, Mr. Speaker, and we know that there are hundreds of Albertans that are working alongside to make sure that we get this right, and we want to honour their report. It will be released very soon, but we want to make sure we get it right. Thank you.